when you become so sensitive to basically the ramifications of your decisions, it also becomes easier to not do them. You get there after you've optimized the system. I had to design it first, then I had to learn how to do it, get fully committed, then I had to get better at it, and then I began to optimize it so I could get more and more efficient, more and more consistent. Then it finally basically has this acceleration. I'd equate it to almost like blasting through the atmosphere, where you need a certain amount of acceleration in order to get through the atmosphere. It's that sort of other side of what it takes. Once you get beyond that, now it becomes effortless and intuitive by your natural ability, where before you were fighting to be consistent and fight these triggers. Now it's almost the opposite.
Okay, Rob Dyrdek, welcome to the What's Essential podcast.
Thank you.
It is great to be with you. We were first introduced by Brent Montgomery, and he sent you, I think, Essentialism and Effortless. And I want to talk about it in a minute, but tell me, first of all, just a little bit about that, what that did in your mind, and then I have a couple more follow-up questions.
Yeah, I think when he, because obviously he's a big fan of yours, considering your connection in business. And, we had always sort of shared philosophies and different aspects of sharing the way that I operate. And he said, you got to read this book. This stuff is brilliant. I've given this to everybody at the company, and it started the journey of, and to me, there's always these great tools that if you're someone that's constantly growing and evolving, you get shared another philosophy that then almost kind of brings clarity what you are already feeling. And again, that was essentialism for me. And then I'm like, boy, but even back then it's like, well, what happens when you're only doing the essential and you're pushed up to the top, right? Then effortless was right behind it, because the book started with and then that's effortless. And then I realized man, the way that I drive everything to automation and then to optimization, my whole existence is driving to this effortless existence, right? So I think that's where I connected with your philosophy on a practical side as it was related to how I run my life as a whole,
So after you and I first connected, I sent a note to Brent that basically said something like this. I said, Rob's not really human. You don't really meet Rob, you experience him. That was my sense of when we talked. The intensity that you bring to whatever you do is really remarkable to me. And I want to get to some specific things that you do that we talked about, but I want to go into some detail with. But first, I want to just reference something, and maybe this is funny for you, or maybe it's serious for you. I don't know, but you are on record as having said. So I was sort of saying it as you're not really human, but you are on record as having said, I am part alien. I truly believe that. I believe I've been abducted and I'm some form of an extraterrestrial race, a 16th part alien or something. Now, maybe that was a joke in the moment, part of the crazy, but talk to me about that.
Well, look, there was this gentleman who was abducted by aliens. That's from the Howard Stern show, who we had on Fantasy Factory, who was basically explaining to me that you are, in fact, you are alien, and you are this extraordinary being. If you understood who you really were, it would blow even your mind. And it was always funny to me. Right. I'm a guy who once purchased a hyperdimensional resonator, which is a time machine off a guy in Nebraska. And because I thought it was funny, I thought this guy's really selling time machines, and I thought it was amazing. So I bought one. It was $365. And then years later, I tried to bring him on one of my television shows to talk about it. And he's like, I ain't talking to you. I know what you are. And I'm like, what? He's like, you're an alien. And I'm like, what? So it has been validated on a handful of different occasions where random people have expressed to me that I may in fact have some alien blood.
And for you, even if we just put it aside as symbolic,
Mhm.
there's something about that that's still powerful for you. I can tell that it is, that you're just going, forget whether you call it alien or not, just the idea that there's something in us, something in you that that's above and beyond what would normally be expected. It's like somehow it names for you or gives you permission to live differently, to live in a really differently to what you see other people doing. Am I reading that right?
Yeah, look, I'm who I am is unexplainable in sort of the normal way that life works, right? The
Mm.
evolution, the growth, the expansion, the development of a way of living in a mind that I wouldn't even have thought possible, even 5, 6 years ago, and so when you get to a state where you begin to evolve and grow beyond your wildest dreams, right? You begin to have the ability to control reality because you get better and better at deciding what you want to do and achieving it, no matter what that is. You begin to feel like you are controlling the universe, and at least in the sense of your own universe, and then you can't help but be filled with gratitude and awe that all the stuff that you set out and had a vision for actually was realized, and your way of life has been realized. You certainly take pride in feeling like you are living like a one of one existence.
I am a strong believer in a simple principle, which is that everything is created twice. Once, emotionally, mentally, even maybe spiritually, and then a second time physically. And I think what you just described is the extraordinary ability that that idea gives you. Did you say, my goodness, at one time it was just a list. One time it was just an idea. And then I've seen this unbelievable thing actually happen and be manifest and be created. And it changes everything, because then it says, not only is that something to be grateful for, but it's also like, well, what else could be created? If if the creative process is something that is available to me, well, what do I want to create? That's what I sense when I hear you talking about it.
Yeah, and look, and it goes a little bit deeper, right? Because it's not a goal, it is a life, right? And when I began to see my life as all these sort of interconnected systems, and then I designed those systems, and each of those systems had goals and ambitions. And then as I got better and better and started drawing closer and closer to those goals associated with these different parts of my life, then the energy started to build, the harmony started to build, the law of attraction kicks in, all this opportunity begins to fulfill the vision. And then what happens when you get closer and closer? You can see further and further, because you begin to see more clear. You begin to have the bigger ideas that you can see of what's possible that you couldn't see before. Then you now are basically in this perpetual state of evolution and growth that basically feeds your energy and passion to basically push to see what's possible, right? And for me, it transitioned from self-preservation to generational preservation, to where it's like, wow, how can I affect the next 500 years of the Dyrdek family instead of just affecting my children and or affecting my way of life in this lifetime? That's the other side of when you find that harmony and life's potential reveals itself to you by having deep clarity on what you want to achieve and then growing towards achieving it. And that's what I've done.
Well, you have, and it's really fascinating to me to hear you describe like all the systems and the layers that you've put together. That it's not just, as you say, a goal, take action, next goal. It's build systems so that these goals start to happen, whether you're you know forcing or pushing it today or not. I want to get to a document that you have created. I have never seen anything like this. You call it the rhythm of existence. You call this the rhythm of existence, and It's a document, something like 20 pages long. I've read lots of documents. I have even guided people in creating documents, planning tools of one kind or another for people's lives. But this is different. A rhythm of existence. Can you just first of all describe, what it is from your point of view?
Yeah, and I think simply put, it's like the operating system for my life, right? And essentially, it has every aspect of how my life operates, and then all the documents associated with it, and it's built to basically drive all aspects of my life to automation. Right. And because at the end of the day, you've got to get things to automation before you can begin to optimize them, because optimization is where the extraordinary happens. Now I've just
Hmm.
applied that to all aspects of my life, and first it starts with designing time, right? Then I've gamified my mental health, I've gamified my physical health, right? I've systematized like my financial systems and structure, how I operate, my daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly schedules, like how I integrate my family, my nannies, my diet, all of these things into this moving system that can be operated by chief of staff and assistants, and then all my COO, president, and all the people that work for me. Because I decided I would design a fully integrated life that included both my business and my family and my well-being. And that document basically represents how that system operates together.
Yeah, and again, this is the difference between setting goals only, which is what I think a lot of people do. It's if they're going to try to live by design, that's what they think it means, versus build systems and how those systems interplay and automating those systems so that you can not just live life, but stand apart and look at your life and look at the machine and look at the ecosystem of your life and keep designing and tweaking it. Just like you said, optimization happens after automation. Optimization happens after automation. Okay, but I want to go through a few pieces of this document. Okay, first of all, uh, what does it have in it? The overview. It has your purpose statement. It has your 4 sub-rhythms: work, life, health, and sleep. You have a section for definitions, principles, framework, rules, and success criteria. That's just the overview of the document. Uh, let's just start with the top. I mean, what do you include when you think about purpose?
Look, it's, much to you, it's about living a high energy, effortless existence, right? Because at the end of the day, like you have a limited amount of capacity, and that capacity is drained by decision making, stress, bad sleep, not eating right, and we think that all these things kind of live separately, and like, oh, we're going to try to take care of ourselves, oh, we're going to try to be less stressed and be more grateful. But in fact, if you really want to live like that on a consistent basis, all of these moving parts that are in this document make up sort of the system that allows you to be able to operate at a really high level, that gives you the clarity to manage your time, manage your mind share, manage your capacity, manage your energy and your health. And look, even the qualitative side of it is really built to give you insight to yourself, to make sure that you're optimizing even the system properly, because the more you optimize it, the more energy you get back. And there was a book written in 1910 called The Science of Getting Rich, and old Wallace D. Wattles talks about like evolution happens with a free mind, meaning when you have mind share, and you just don't realize how much steals from your mind share and actually pulls from your capacity. And for me, like, this document was built in 2015. It took me 5 years before I could fully operate it. And the last year and a half has been really optimizing it, right?
Hmm.
Because it's like a really complex thing that you have to grow into and get better and better at operating it over time. Simply put, You don't just decide to be balanced one day. You
Hmm.
being balanced is difficult. There are so many aspects of balance that you need to do self-discovery and realize what rhythm you can live in order to have balance. It's not as simple as spending more time with my wife and not working as much, right? Like you have got to put some serious work into the discovery. And then guess what? Then you've designed it. Now you got to start on your journey, because becoming really good at being balanced is just like going to the gym or trying to build any other skill. You've got to grow it over time and get better at it in order for it to actually be extraordinarily effective for you.
There's so much to build on here, but one of the things is that I don't love the word balance. I've never felt especially attracted to it, which might be surprising given that people associate my work as being, well, sort of work-life balance. But I never even understand what that term means. It's an odd phrase to me, where you're trying to. I mean, generally people are spending too much time with work, not enough time with their life. So it's not really about balance. It's about making sure that work doesn't consume them. But even besides that, it's this idea of a sort of a seesaw where it's like, well, one goes up, one goes down. And who wants that? I don't know. It doesn't inspire the
Yeah,
imagination.
look, you're right.
There's a,
Because you
but
want to
there's
know
a,
what it is?
yeah,
It's
go on.
harmony. You're
Yes.
searching for harmony in all aspects of your life system, like your health, your mental health, your financial health, like your quality of work and the relationships at work, the quality of your relationships in your family, your purpose, ambition. All these things create the system. And when the system is out of balance, like even if you're like you have good time management, you're all wonky and out of balance. It's when there's harmony and there's rhythm, that's when you can really find quote unquote balance, because you've found real harmony, you know.
Well, there's an engineering term, and the term is dynamic equilibrium.
Mhm.
And I love that term. So even as I don't love the term balance, especially, I love dynamic equilibrium. And that's what I think you are going for in this document, right? This is now 6 years of development, this document, right? It's an ongoing evolution, but it's about trying to get all the pieces to work together in a way that everything works and that it's optimizing, each piece of the puzzle. And so anyway, that's what I think of when I look at this document, a dynamic
I love
equilibrium.
that. Love that. Love that. And think about it. It changes every year. I continue to evolve. I have kids now. I have, it's and I even, really look to my wife and how she's feeling and how we're evolving. Do I need to put another body in? Do I need to automate something? Like you just constantly keep adding to it, because you're driving back down to your center, which is minimizing how much effort you need to output to live a fulfilling, happy, harmonious life, right? Like, and that's constantly evolving and requires you to be constantly adaptive, you know.
Well, this is why I love the term rhythm. I mean, as I say, I've seen lots of documents, more than the average person, let's say, of goal documents and so on. But this phrase, rhythm of existence, a rhythm, and then even within it, you have, you know, the rhythm of existence has four subrhythms. Work is part of the rhythm. Life, health, sleep. How are you doing? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, in health. How are you doing on that right now?
Well, look, my health is a little bit more complicated, right? Because I've been on this journey of re-engineering my entire biomechanics to where I have flawless neuromuscular and skeletal alignment. Too deep to get into here today, but what I do want to um, tell you is I've had 12 bad days in 2021. And the most fascinating aspect of using qualitative data as it relates to 0 to 10, how do you feel right now about your health? Well, I've tracked 0 to 10, how I feel about my life, my work, and my health every day for the last 6 years, right? And in 2020, it was the first year that I finally collected an entire year of data. And at
Mm.
the end of that year, I averaged, and if you total them up between the 0 to 10, between life, work, and health, there's a total score of 30. I averaged an 18.2 for the year. And then every day I tracked, did I get up at 5? Did I brain train? Did I get in the gym? Did I meditate? Did I eat clean? And did I not drink? And for the year, my percentage that I did that was 56%. And wow, how fascinating. At the end of 2020, I had an entire year of data of both qualitative, how I felt about life, work, and health, and then quantitative, what did I actually physically do for my health. And it was so obvious in the data that, like, man, look at this. When you were really committed to your health side, look at the qualitative numbers, right?
Mm.
And so I made the commitment in 2021 that I'm going to average above 20, and I was going to do that by averaging above 80% in my on my quantitative stuff. I was going to get up at 5, brain train, meditate, get in the gym, eat clean, and not drink 80% of the year.
Hmm.
I ended up doing it 92% of the entire year, many of the months at full 100%. My average for the year is 21.4.
Hmm.
And so when I look back at how much I accomplished this year, how balanced I was, but ultimately I have proof in numbers of the quality of my life was the highest it's ever been. And so when I had a bad day where I scored a 16 2 weeks ago, and I thought to myself, man, when is the last time I scored a 16? And I went back, and through the entire year, I had 2 16s, and I had 10 17s for the whole year. And I'm like, wow, I only had 12 bad days in this entire year. And then when I went back to my 2020 data, I averaged the 16 in October. I had months that I averaged 17. I had months where I averaged what today would be considered a bad day in an entire year. This is extraordinary and really, really over the top, but it is what happens when you commit and get really good at using qualitative data and gamifying your health with quantitative metrics, and then getting motivated now by seeing them work together, and the output being the quality of your life is higher and better than it's ever been, not just on how you say it feels, but in the data and truly what you've been able to do over an entire year's period. And for me, how I know I will be at this sustained level of happiness forever, because I know I still have even further to go from what's possible from an optimization standpoint, you know.
Okay, so I'm looking right now at your time data, tool that you'd sent over to me. So I mean, I can see literally day by day every breakdown, all of these points that you are referencing, color coordinated. This is a level of precision. Normally, when I ask somebody, "How are you doing in health?" 0 to 10, they offer one number. Nobody offers, "Well, over the last 6 years, you know." I've averaged 18.2, and then this year I've been at 21.3 and 12 bad days in 1 year. I mean, like, nobody's doing that, right? And it might seem overwhelming to people, but the whole point of this system is to reduce the stress and the pressure and the burden. You just got a better machine that's running, rather than, oh, I'm just trying harder than anybody else alive. It's the system that you've been building that really works. My question to you is, what are you using to gather this data? I mean, are you using particular tools or apps, or what are you using?
But let me say to another point, because every time I describe it and show people that I do it, it like makes them tired, because it's just like, how could anybody do? When do you have the time to do all this?
Yes.
But think about it, and you know this, like it's now second nature to me and intuitive. I don't even like it, I can't even imagine. I got up at 4 today, brain trained and meditated before 5 o'clock because I had a bunch of other things I wanted to do, and my nanny wasn't here today. And it's like I normally a year and a half ago I've been like, I'm going to skip brain training and meditating today. It eventually becomes habitual, and habits eventually become intuitive. They just become a way of who you are. And so for me, it's since I developed it on my own and it doesn't really exist, I had somebody write me the script for my Google Calendar. So I essentially every day get up, put in how much I slept. Then I rate my sleep 0 to 10. I then rate how motivated I am that day, right? Because I want to track how motivated I am. And then I go back to the previous day and go through the core four. Did I meditate? Did I get up at 5? Did I eat clean? Did I get in the gym? Right. Then I give my score for how I feel about my life, work, and health. And of course, I
Just into
then
your calendar? You just put it into your
just
calendar.
into my calendar, right? And
Got it.
I ask my wife every day how she feels about our relationship 0 to 10, right? Because even that now, the beauty of qualitative data between you and your wife is you always have to have the conversation about, like in my case, because I'm more of a robot, her feelings, right? So I'm always like aware of her state, which allows me to be a better husband and be more aware of her energy rather than constantly, this high energy, everything's amazing life can tax somebody who's feeling empty. You know what I mean? So all of that data goes straight into my Google Calendar. Then it all gets pulled into a Google spreadsheet. So I get to look at it every month, every day. It's like I'm like motivated by the gamification of my discipline, And so it's like it stops me from wanting a pizza. It stops me from like, I'm just tired, I need a glass of wine. Like it because I've gamified it, and there's just these moments of weakness are the hardest to break, especially depending on where you're at from a stress level. And I've found, as I've cleared out so much in my life and gotten to this highly optimized state, that I still carry these certain triggers that have been with me my whole life. And one is when I feel stuck. When I feel stuck, I just want to drink and eat pizza.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's so hyper aware. When I get stuck and then have that feeling, it's like, oh, look at that trigger. Look at that trigger. It's like you begin to
And
be
this
able to seal them. Go ahead.
system gives you a reason not to. A lot
Right.
of us don't have a reason not to do these things. When the trigger happens, you go, okay, well, you just go along with it. This game, the gamification of your life around what's essential to you, is helping you to go in that moment. Okay, now I have a reason not to. I want to put in my score. I want to be able to say today was great according to my own criteria. Go ahead.
Right. And again, it's not even it's like, what happens if you have 2 glasses of wine and a pizza. That it slows your brain function down. It brings your motivation down, which gives like a lapse of a few days. And I swear to you, I can feel like if my energy shifts because I decided to go out on a Saturday night and booze it up, and then get up in the morning and eat a bagel. And I know that sounds light, but it would still affect me. It's like I get to see the ripple effect into the entire week, right? And so it's like when you become so sensitive to basically the ramifications of your decisions, it also becomes easier to not do them, right? And that's you get there after you've optimized the system. I had to design it first, then I had to learn how to do it, get fully committed, then I had to like get better at it, and then I began to optimize it so I could get more and more efficient, more and more consistent. Then it finally basically has this acceleration. I'd equate it to almost like blasting through the atmosphere, where you need a certain amount of acceleration in order to like get through the atmosphere. It's that sort of other side of what it takes, like once you get beyond that, now it becomes effortless and intuitive by your natural ability, where before you were fighting to be consistent and fight these triggers. Now it's almost the opposite, where there's so few and far between. And then it's like, okay, do you really want a pizza? No. Right. But sometimes you do it just for enjoyment. And then you have 3 responsible slices in the early afternoon, knowing that you're going to like intermittent fast in the evening and the pizza doesn't affect you whatsoever. You know?
Yeah, you are this idea of not just living life, but learning from living. You're just taking that to a really, high level where you're constantly paying attention, adjusting, and then not just generally, not just putting the pressure on your mental exertion to remember what you're observing. You've just built a system to be able to pour that data into it so that you can learn fast from the experiences that you're having.
Right. And you almost get really good at optimization. So you're constantly nuancing. And when you feel stuck, when you feel the rhythm get tight, because what happened to me this year was I didn't account for that. Okay, I was finally doing press and interviews again. I launched 6 companies this year. I shot 250 episodes of television this year. I launched my foundation this year. I've shot 35 episodes of my podcast this year. I launched a consumer feedback group called The Machinists that are consumer collaborators inside my venture studio. Like I hired, 7 or 8 new people. You're talking about like this excessive amount of work. Now, keep in mind, I did all of that with only 30% of my time because I would never compromise my balance, right? I would never compromise the time with my wife, the time with my family. And what I ran into now was that capacity issue where I would not compromise my balance. So I had to start making mega trade-offs, right? Like, and the trade, because the trade-off was not going to be at the expense of my balance. It was going to be at the expense of what I could do in the allotted time that I worked. And that forced me to really recognize capacity and then drive everything into hiring a bunch of new bodies and fast track everything from automation to optimization to pull back from that capacity in order to allow myself to get back in a more comfortable rhythm. Because even though I was fully balanced in my health and my family and my work and all these sort of essential balances that we think of, I still had pressure on that 30% because I had packed it so tight that I didn't take on anything else and drove everything to automation, released that pressure, restructured my schedule with my executive team, restructured the org chart of my business to a flat org chart, and then did daily or every Monday, half-hour meetings all day with every executive to keep everything flowing and organized. And going into 2020, I've just cleared Tuesdays for only execution. That way I have fully organized Mondays, and then I have fully clear Tuesday to allow me to get caught up, breathe, free think, and only now set meetings inside the remaining 3 days of the week. Only now inside the 30% that I allot for work.
Yeah,
In
it's it's very impressive. It's very interesting. I've taken a day now, Wednesdays, where I don't schedule any appointments, and except with rare exceptions. And I'm amazed at the value of that day to me, to be able to just to do things, to actually do deep thinking, and to not be so reactive, even with great things. You can be reactive even with great things. You use the term mega trade-offs. What's a mega trade-off you've made this year?
Yeah, look, I've tried not to get to the point of the mega trade-off, right? Because since I never traded off for my family time or my health time. I stayed more committed to it than ever. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
because in the past, what would I do? What's the first trade-off you make? Always health. It's always
Definitely.
health. It's always meditation. It's always the gym. And then what's the first thing? What's the easiest thing to go when you're exhausted all day? Diet, right? Like you just want to sit
Mm-hmm.
and veg and be out of it, right? And so to
Mm-hmm.
me, by getting so good at leaving balance, I was jammed in that capacity. Now what are my trade-offs? My trade-offs are I'm going to push the book I want to do out a year. I'm not going to shoot it. I was offered a business television show that I stopped. My trade-off was no longer inside my life, but it's inside my allotted time of the business, that the time that I would be willing to do for business. And the beauty of it is you have so much, I have so much clarity in all aspects of my life as it relates to the things that would ever put pressure on you, especially my financial design, right? Because there's at a certain point, like finances will always put pressure on you unless you design a way where they don't. And I did that by like creating a plan in 2015 that I was going to push all of my net earnings into cash, um, distributing non-correlated real estate.
Yeah.
So I get to live a life.
I want to time out for a second because I want to get separately to the business systems. Let's just wrap up on the rhythm of existence and then move to that. Does that work?
Sure.
Okay, so just other aspects really quickly as part of your rhythm of existence. You go through the principles that you want to you want to run your rhythm of existence by. You want them to be predictable, adaptable, balanced, and relentless. You go through framework rules. Each of these things: intention, measurement, triaging, time allocation, energy allocation, 360 review, cadence. I mean, each of these have definitions and specificity, success criteria. That's all part one. Part two is the rhythm of existence, actors and roles. What your role is, what your chief of staff role is, what your executive assistant does, what your personal assistant does, what your DM team does, and underneath there. So that's part two. Part three, I think it's part three, is tools and resource management. Google Drive, Google Sheets, Google Doc, Calendar, Gmail, Dropbox. Uh, you know, goes through various living documents, the hot sheet, the living doc. I could go on. You go through your relationship with Bree, and well, my goodness, I thought I was further through the document than I am. I'm like literally halfway through the document. I thought I was managing this better. You go through weekly activity management, constants within that weekly event. I'm going to mention some of the weekly haircut to maintain a low maintenance and clean appearance. Like that's the level of specificity it goes to. Do you have someone just come to you? Is this an obvious question? How do you make the weekly haircut effortless?
Yeah, so someone comes to my house every
Yeah.
Friday at 9:30. You know what I
Every
mean?
Friday at
And
9:30. So
yeah.
every single week you get your haircut.
Yeah, because to me, think about it. It's like okay, now it's like it's one thing now you never have to think about. You know what I mean? It's like it doesn't matter if you're
Totally.
going out, and because it's like, what do you do otherwise? Like, oh, it's been a while. Now you're worried about it. Now it's taking mind share. Then you got to schedule it. There's all these things. It's like it's a perfect example of as many of those things that you can do release you from mind share and give you more freedom.
100%. You've got a weekly wife breakfast. A weekly weekday breakfast is scheduled every Thursday morning that you're going to be with Bree. A weekly date night, dinner date night and movie, set same time every week. A weekly date night. That's 2 date nights a week. That's what you're describing there, isn't
Well,
it?
look, no, I do Friday, I do Thursday movie night, Wednesday breakfast date. I do Sunday sushi night. I do Tuesday night talk night. I do Thursday. We meet with all of our assistants, and we have a family living document hot sheet that we go through every aspect of the family. I then we walk through my calendar for the month to make sure we're all on the same page. Every single morning, I send her an email at 6 in the morning of everything that I'm doing that day and what it means to me, along with a love quote. So she never has visibility flexibility on everything that I'm doing. Now, all of this, it started with like, hey, let's have 2 date nights a week. Then it's like, okay, that's not enough. And all of this optimization with this relationship, all of this, when she's down, I'll still clear a day and take her to the movies in the afternoon. Right? Like I'm still incredibly adaptive inside this rhythm that becomes as intuitive and normal to the whole system, but I'm not rigid with it, right? Like I will still allow flexibility depending on how I'm feeling or how my wife's feeling, because at the end of the day, it's still about making sure and protecting the energy of the house and the family above everything, you know.
So there's two parts when I listen to all of this. I see on the one side, yeah, I could imagine wives everywhere listening to this going, well, I'd quite like if my husband had time for breakfast with me once a week scheduled, 2 date nights, sushi night, talk night, and so on, that part of them would welcome this. Uh,
Mhm.
there's another side that I could see many people listening to this going, back to your comment about it seeming exhausting, feeling like, is she really the center of it, or is this machine, owning it? How is your relationship with Bree right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I have an extraordinary relationship with my wife, and I like to say, like, she's never even like really made me mad. Like this entire optimization is based off of like managing her emotions and feelings and making sure that she's always feeling in the best place and feeling the best about her life and our life together. And look, it's been created based off of her needs, and it'd be like we feel like we don't even like talk. Okay, you want to make Tuesdays where we don't watch any TV and always make talk at night? Like, okay, perfect. It's like we only go out at night. All right, let's do a breakfast day. What do you want to do? But then it's like I feel disconnect. All right, let's get the family together and do with all the assistants and do a family meeting every week. Right? It's like this is over, going on 7 years of marriage where I just keep optimizing. You got to think another thing that I refer to it as tuning a Ferrari, but we also have a therapist come to the house every other week. So it's like now we have a neutral party, even though we have this extraordinary relationship that I put on as the most precious thing in my life, because I
Mm.
know how rare this type of love is, and I'm going to defend its purity at all costs, right? I put it above everything. And but we still bring in a neutral party so that like you can have these conversations that like there's just some conversations that even though you're so close and have such a great relationship that you just can't have without some sort of support system between you that has allowed, which in turn continues to keep the energy of your home and your relationship constantly being like taken care of, right? And then
Well,
asking her to give the score each day, she gives me ones and zeros all the time. Like if I like, and it's like, and it'll be like, it'll be something like so nuanced, but I never question why she feels the way she feels. And that's what I think is probably the greatest growth gift that I was able to give her at this age and this level of optimization, that don't bother arguing with her about how she feels. Just help understand why she feels that way and try to not make her feel that way again. And if you just think about that fundamentally, that's what's allowed our relationship to grow so strong and so good over the years we've been married.
they give now she's giving you Bree's giving you a score of 1 or 2 on a 10-point scale. On a what scale?
Yeah, on a 10-point scale.
Yeah, on a
Look, she gave me a 0. She gave me a 0, and we had to rewrite the
When
script
did she
and the
give you the 0?
data. I wanna say that I got the 0 because she had been traveling and came back the next day, and I was in my normal day rhythm, and then I stopped and watched football, instead of working on a Sunday, and to her, she had been gone for 2 days, and rather than spend time with her, she felt like I chose football over her.
Hmm.
So I can be like, what? You were gone 2 days. Like, it's like, I don't, like there's no reason to argue it. I'm in it's, and so what did I do to optimize it? I told my assistant, okay, from every now on when she's out of town, this is now the third time where when she's gotten back, she's felt like all of us didn't miss her. And so
Hmm.
I'm like, from now on, when she's out of town, let's go through it on the calendar and make sure that like I take her to lunch that day and make sure that we do a family activity so that we don't, otherwise, if we try to just live our normal lives when she comes back, then she's going to feel like we didn't even miss her. And again, nuance. Feel it, make the change, add it to the system. Like then in that week with my assistant, we go through it and lay out on what I'm going to do on Sunday when she comes back. And people could say that's crazy, but that's what I want to continue to do, to have this highly amazing, beautiful relationship with my wife. You know what I mean?
If I had Bree on, and by the way, I have her on speed dial right now, so she's about to step into this. What would she say about all of this? Would she say, like, what's her honest view? Does she say, man, I love that system? Or does she say, man, I wish I could throw that system out sometimes? What would she say of all of this?
No, I think, she's transitioning this year to starting to collect her own data. She won't show it to
Mm.
me, but how she feels about her life, work, and health, 0 to 10, to begin to create that qualitative awareness. But here's what she would tell you. I know how much he absolutely loves and puts his family first and how committed he is to our relationship and our love and our lives. That's what she would tell you, right? Because
Mm.
at the end of the day, the system's irrelevant, right? Because the system falls away and is in the background. It seems like the system's driving everything, but it's not, because the system was designed, it was automated, it was optimized, and now it's intuitive. It's just the rhythm and the flow of life. So it
Well,
doesn't feel like it's even in her world.
well, and something I want to say about that is that everybody has a complex system right now, and the results they're getting, people listening to this, the results that you're getting in your relationship with your spouse, with your children, with your health, with your sleep, with your life. I mean, you have a system already, and it's highly complex and it's highly interdependent and interrelated. And so it's not like building a system like Rob has created suddenly is more burdensome. It's just more by design, it's more deliberate instead of this complex system being created by default. And so, in a sense, I can see how both systems really become quite invisible over time. It's just whether that system is built in your favor around the things that matter most, around the relationships that matter most, or whether they're built in some other form without such purpose. Am I getting that right? Tell me where I'm wrong.
Hallelujah. It is the cornerstone of my entire philosophy, that is the machine mindset, right? It is this idea that you are a living system, whether you like it or not. You just have an entire system that is disorder by design.
Mm.
You basically have grown and evolved into, because what do we drive? We drive everything to the least amount of effort as possible. So if you design it poorly and then drive it to an effortless state where it's out, if you become extraordinary at eating chips every night and watching Netflix, guess what? The ramification of the lack of disorder and in your health and your entire happiness in your system, you've created it. And the further along you get, the harder it is for you to redesign your systems to actually find harmony and have balance and create the output of your ideal life. And then most people have to like try as hard as they can to try to get it to work, and then they give up because it takes too much effort, because there's so much drag on the systems. And I really
Mm.
believe you cannot change one part of your life without changing all of it. And,
That's
and
so
it's
good.
just the reality that people think they can just go to the gym and be healthier. Oh, I'm going to spend more time with my wife and then my relationship's going to be good. It is like, if you do not have the harmony in all of your life systems, then master your life systems, then grow your life systems and optimize them to have the output of what? the highest quality of life possible, because the output of your system is essentially the quality of your life. And some people just build a system that is so out of balance and so lacks, that has so much just like wobbly dysfunction in it, that they literally no longer believe it is possible to find true happiness or a high quality of life. So they just spend a lifetime hunting pockets of happiness in between being in a constant state of drudge. You know what I mean?
Now I want to say hallelujah to you, because that's it, right? Essentialism is an ecosystem or nothing. It's all about all the interrelated pieces and how to. It's a living organism, and so how to keep tending to it. It's more like a garden than a single goal. Okay, go get that. There's so many ways in which you could go get a single goal and actually violate all the things that really matter to you, because they all
Right,
get
but
dropped at the
hey,
same time.
but
Go.
everybody has the exact same goal. It is to live a high quality, effortless, happy, harmonious existence. We all seek the same thing, true happiness. But the problem is, it seems so elusive and complex, and we dabble in it and never seek to design what would actually achieve that for us. And that's what I did. In 2015, I defined what my ideal life would be, and then I designed all the parts of it, and then I grew into it. And guess what? I live it. And it took me 5 years to get there. And when I got here, it's like, wow. You are
Hmm.
overwhelmed with gratitude. You are overwhelmed with ambition and motivation, because guess what? I can now see so much further than I ever thought possible once I reached my ideal life. And my ideal life keeps evolving. And because here's the thing too, you don't go straight to a goal. You expand into a goal. And here's the other aspect of a goal. You can put a couple milestones to your big achievement, but it reveals itself about a third of a way through. A third of a way through, when you're really hoping to achieve something, you finally see everything you actually have to do to achieve it. And at that point,
Right.
most people either quit or they get extra motivated, because now there's the clarity that's needed to achieve it. But you expand into life, and life reveals itself. But I'm telling you, as living proof, when you design all those systems and around growing into the ideal version of yourself and life, and then you do it, boy, you are truly living an alien like existence. You know what I mean? You
That's just a
really.
perfect way to bring that about. Let me just sort of end this episode on this point. When I think of people watching, ridiculousness, can
Yeah,
you say that? You say it perfect.
ridiculousness. You said it.
Oh, no, but I love the way you say it. The When I think about people watching that, and this is obviously not a knock on the show, because the show is what it's supposed to be, entertaining, funny. We People need that escape, that laugh when life gets burdened. But when people see you on there, I just don't see anybody connecting the dots back to the conversation we've just had. People, oh, hey, a skater, skater boy who built this life and so on. But the level of precision, the level of thinking, the systems that have been developed. I mean, this, let's say, is the real Rob Dyrdek.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts for us?
Yeah, I mean, look, the beauty of life is you get to continually evolve and make it whatever you desire, right? And I, in the process of choosing to do that, I've actually began to put together a philosophy of how to create any life that you desire, that I believe, 20 years from now will be my great legacy, and people won't even think about the fact that I shot 250 episodes of television this year, and have the number one cable television show by consumed minutes with 55 billion minutes consumed this year, albeit with 4% of my time in an entire year because I tracked it. They would never connect it, but it's the beauty of life is that I continue to evolve and have no paradigms on what is possible for me, which in turn will allow me to be a great sort of inspirational person to look at of truly anything is possible. If this kid quit high school at 16 in Ohio and became a professional skateboarder, then went on to be this television star and then this super successful venture capitalist and entrepreneur, and really at the end of the day, his greatest achievement is the pure happiness and heaven on earth that he created with his life, anything is possible, you know.
That is beautiful. That's what's essential. Thank you so much for being on the show, Rob.
Great. Love being here.